So we get started. So we continue now with the next lecture. Let me briefly introduce to you Padovani. Paolo is also a member of the Sonderforschungsbereich, this SFB, which is a research center which we have at Munich. And Paolo is working at the ESO, he's senior astronomer at the ESO, and he's the expert of blazars. Basically, he is one of the founding fathers of blazer classifications. So, and he will tell you everything you want to know about the astrophysics side of multi-messenger astronomy and high energies. Paolo, please.
Okay, is this working fine? Okay. Thanks, Stefan. So it's very nice to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. As Stefan said, I work at ESO, European Southern Observatory in Garching, close to Munich. I'm a multi-wavelength astronomer with an interest in high-energy astrophysics and neutrinos. And the timing of this school is perfect for the topic of my lectures. Less than 2 months ago, we witnessed the birth of a new branch of astronomy, which is very rare. The birth of non-stellar astrophysics, which is connected to multi-messenger astrophysics and AGN, which stands for active galactic nuclei. So, you've probably seen the press release, all the newspapers and all that. Despite what some people said during some interviews, we were expecting this. So the first lecture, I'm going to give you the background story. How we got here and why the discovery, which was announced last July, was not unexpected. Tomorrow, I'm going to give you all the details you want to know about the discovery itself. So, the identification of the high-energy ice-cube neutrinos with a blazar, which is a type of AGN. AGN are very complex, even for astronomers. So, the last 2 lectures are going to be devoted to AGN for physicists. I've done this before. It's fun on my side. I'll explain to you AGN, starting from first principles, and there's going to be a lot of material here, so I'm going to be very flexible. I'm going to look at your faces, you interrupt me if I don't understand something, and I'm going to slow down if necessary or expand on some points. Before we start, I want to know how many of you have taken astrophysics classes? Oh, okay, not too bad, not too bad. So for some of you it's going to be easier than others. But as I say, this is going to be, in a way, most of what I'm saying is outside the other lectures. That's the feeling I have. But I'm here to explain to you AGN. So, for some of you, if some of you have been asleep or hibernating or on holiday for the past 2 months, this is the cover of Science, July 12, where it was announced that the first identification of neutrinos from a blazar. And there was, as I said, a lot of press coverage. And it was all over the newspapers, and so I'm going to try to tell you how we got there. And I've been working with Lisa Rasconi for the past 4 years on exactly trying to see if blazars could be neutrino sources. So the plan of this first lecture, and most of it is being done with Lisa, Paolo, Johnny, and others. First of all, I'll tell you about neutrinos, but I guess many of you know more than I do. And then neutrino astronomy, which won't take too long. Then I'll discuss the problem, and then I'll show the 3 approaches we've taken to solve this problem. And then tomorrow I'll take you to the discovery. So, before I start, just make sure that we are on the same page. A reminder for the physicists that 1 electron volt is equivalent to 2.4 hertz, which is what we use in astronomy. Actually, we use angstroms, but I'm going to be nice to you and not only use hertz. 1 GeV, of course, is 1 billion times that. That takes us into the gamma rays, and 1 TeV takes us into the very high energy gamma rays. 1 PeV is beyond astronomy, as I say tomorrow, and it's this value in hertz. And in terms of energy, it's quite easy. 1 TeV is roughly 1.6 hertz, 1 PeV is 1,000 times that. And just for fun, a little block of chocolate is about 2 billion mega-electron volts, which is 2 iota-electron volts. Okay, neutrinos. As I said, most of you know more than I do, but I want to give you the astronomical side of it. The most important thing about neutrinos, remember, is that they are Italian. They were invented, the name was invented by Eduardo Amaldi, it was publicized by Enrico Fermi. Neutrino in Italian means a small neutrone. Neutrone is the big neutron particle, neutrino is a small one. And of course, it's tiny, we don't know how big it is, but it's less than 1 millionth the mass of the electron. As you all know, it's a neutral, it's a weakly interactive particle, it comes in 3 types. They can change flavor, you all know about this. Maybe you don't know that, or maybe you forgot that they are everywhere. Every cubic centimeter of the universe contains 340 cosmic neutrinos, which comes from the Big Bang. There was a time where everything was in equilibrium, even neutrinos were interacting with photons, and then they got frozen out, and this is what we have now. The energy is tiny. Probably we'll never be able to see them. It's 0.002 electron volts. Then, and I like to say this when I give my public talks, every second, the square centimeters of our bodies is crossed by 10 to the 11th neutrinos, which is about 10 to 14 neutrinos per second to our bodies. The energy in this case is less than about half an MeV. So at this point, since we don't know anything about that matter, but there is a lecture about that, at the moment they are the second most common particle in the universe after photons. Neutrino astronomy, this is going to be a very, very short slide because we only know about 2 sources. Well, we knew about 2 sources until very recently. The first one is the Sun. This is a Burghausen paper from Nature. And this is the reaction that astronomers love. This is what keeps the stars shining for, it depends how big they are, but typically 10 billion years. So they have 4 protons, they become helium, they produce. We astronomers only care about this part, the energy part. And then there are 2 neutrinos, of course, as well. And the energy of these neutrinos, you look at the red curve, and it's about less than half an MeV. And then the second source, and last source, was mentioned by Kate in the previous lecture, is supernova 7A. Supernova 7A was the closest supernova in centuries to us. It exploded when I was a younger student, 31 years ago, in a large Magellan cloud. A few hours before the light, we got 3 detectors which actually saw neutrinos coming from supernova. The energy is about a few tens of MeVs. The reaction here is described in a nice review by Janka and Thomas Janka, and it's when the star is collapsing, the electrons and protons basically are squashed to death, and they produce neutrinos and neutrons. So everything changed in about 5 years ago. Ice Cube published his first paper on Science, where he reported the results that they found significant evidence of high-energy neutrinos, about 30 keVs, coming from Ice Cube. What is Ice Cube? Ice Cube is the largest neutrino detector in the world. It was built over 7 summers by drilling holes with hot boiling water down to about 3,000 meters in the ice. And this is a movie of what Ice Cube sees. Of course, Ice Cube doesn't see the neutrinos, it sees the results of the interaction of the neutrino with the protons in the ice. And these particles emit blue channel of light, which is seen by the Ice Cube detectors. So, after 6 years of data, this is what Ice Cube has published. So these are the number of events in 6 years. This is the energy in keVs. You see in blue the atmospheric neutrinos. Luckily, the spectrum is very steep, so we know that roughly about 100 keVs, they are a minority, so whatever is left there is coming from space. These neutrinos are produced when cosmic rays hit the upper parts of the atmosphere, they produce neutrinos. So above 100 keVs, you have these dark points, and Ice Cube say that there are detected about 82 neutrinos, the significance of 6.5 sigma or more. These are neutrinos that are called starting events because they are seen within the detector. There are other types of events which come outside the detector, and details are irrelevant, but they produce this red line, which is in perfect agreement with the black points within the same range, and these are about 50 more neutrinos with detection of 6.7 sigma. So we are seeing things. They're not coming from Earth, so the big question is, where are they coming from? And this is where the astronomers come in. This is after, the way I got into this game, Elisa Resconi, who's Stefan's wife, she came to ISO after the science paper, December 2013, so 5 years ago. She gave a colloquium, and I've been working on lasers, energy, astrophysics for many years. After the colloquium, I went to her, and we started talking, and we thought about lasers, so we started working, and we published the first paper 6 months later, and we've been following this idea that lasers could be neutrino sources. And as I keep saying to everybody, this problem can only be solved by astronomers and physicists working together. Because we don't know the physics, and no offense, physicists get lost in the astronomy because astronomy is very, very complex. So by working together, we can manage, and I think we've shown that we can do. Small parenthesis. So, where are these neutrinos coming from? Again, I guess you know more than I do about this. The only way you can produce them, you have high energy protons, you crush them against other protons or photons, and you produce pions, which decay and produce neutrinos, and also pi zeros, which produce gamma rays. So this is going to be very important for what I'm going to say in the rest of the talk. Whenever you have a source of neutrinos, you need gamma rays. And this is what the astronomy comes in. No vice versa. There are many ways of producing gamma rays without neutrinos, of course, which is what makes the situation quite complex. And this is what I said in writing, the same reactions. So, as I say, proton-proton collisions, you get photons and neutrinos, and this is another key point, which will come back later. The energy and the flux of the photons is within a factor of 2 of the energy and the flux of neutrinos. So if you're putting the two together, building a spectral energy distribution, or we call it an SED, you have to have some match between the gamma ray photons and the neutrinos if the neutrinos are coming from the source. This is again going to be a key point in a minute. So where are these ice cube neutrinos coming from? This is a galactic projection, so this is the galaxy, this is the plane of the galaxy. So here you're on the plane, the further you are away from the galaxy. So typically galactic sources are within, say, 10 degrees from the plane. As you can see, the points are all over the place. So they cannot all come from the galaxy. They have to come from other galaxies. And indeed, the ice cube collaboration has put the maximum contribution from the galaxy about 15%. So we know that they are coming from space, they are not coming from the galaxy, they are coming from other galaxies. The problem is that there are 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, and we have to find out which ones they are. And the further problem is that the error circles of this, of most of these neutrinos are huge. They can reach 10 degrees. Okay, for you, maybe you don't understand what it is. The moon is half a degree, so 20 times the size of the moon. That's the error circle where you're looking for neutrinos. Okay, there are also some other ones which are typical errors of about 1 degree. For us, these are huge. Normally, when I do my cross-matching, I have a radio source and I want to find the counterpart. I'm talking about seconds, arc seconds. So if I look in an optical catalog, I find 1, maybe 2 counterparts. If I do this using astronomical tools, you see what we get. So this was the main problem to identify this field. So this is the list. Ice cube publishes the positions, the errors, and so let's just play what I call brute force neutrino astronomy. So let's pick one event, number 17, which has this position and this angular value. I go to Sinbad, which is an astronomical tool. You go there, you put the coordinates of anything, and it will tell you the counterparts. I do this, I put my radius, and I get the maximum of 10,000 counterparts within 11.6 degrees. So I'm not going to go very far. But, of course, physicists and astronomers are very inventive, and there were many possible source candidates which people were thinking could be producing neutrinos. And I made a list. This is from a review paper by Hannes and Hansen. So extragalactic on the extragalactic side, start from the galaxies, which are remnants, because then you have protons which are thrown away outside from a galaxy supernova and they hit the interstellar medium, activate the nuclei, and I'll expand on that. Activate the nuclei outflows, because black holes, contrary to public wisdom, not only create stuff, but they also throw away stuff. The same idea, you're launching high energy stuff against other material, and so you can have proton-proton collisions. Lasers, and I'll expand on this, especially in the last two lectures. Gamma ray bursts, these are very energetic phenomena. On the galactic side, you have particle beam rays and blah blah blah. The point is that anything where you have energetic protons bumping into other protons or other photons are going to be neutrino sources. But the main question is, are they going to be within the isotope sensitivity, which unfortunately is not great, as we realized in the past 4 years. It's the best we can do now, but it's not optimal. Okay, so how would we start solving this problem? Remember physics, okay? So if you have a PeV neutrino, you have to have protons with at least 10 or 100 PeVs of energy. Which means, remember that what I said earlier, that you have to have photons with similar energy and flux within a factor of 2. So we are talking about gamma ray sources. And this is going to limit our number of possible candidates. Gamma ray sources are very rare in the universe. Of all the AGN known, and again I'll expand on this in the last lectures, only less than 1% are known gamma ray sources. So this is a nice reduction in the number of possible candidates. So our list has sources neutrinos between 60 and 2 PeVs, which means we're looking for photons between 120 PeVs and 4 PeVs. Unfortunately, we cannot see these photons for 2 reasons. First of all, the best we can do right now is 40 TeVs with the Cherenkov arrays on the ground, but there is more. We'll never be able to see these photons, period. Why? Because of the extragalactic background light. The universe is filled with infrared optical photons. If you have a distant laser emitting very energy photons, these photons will interact with these background photons, photon-photon collision, and then produce pairs. So you start from a spectrum which will be very high, and you end up with a spectrum which is attenuated. So of course, the closer you are, the better things are. The further away you are, the higher the chance that you actually interact with the photons. And this is a paper which shows you very nicely. This is the optical depth, and this is the fraction, the attenuation fraction. So let's look at 1 TeV. Let's look at a redshift say of 0.6, which is this curve. And this redshift, which is not very high for our standards, the highest so far quasar is 7.5, so this is relatively close by. For 1 TeV, redshift 0.6, you are only less than 1 photon out of 1,000 you're going to reach us. So basically, you're going to be totally depleted of photons. So these very energy photons are going to be totally absorbed by the EVA, basically background light. But we can do the best we can anyway. We can look at gamma ray catalogs at the highest energy available. And this is what we did. We used the Fermi 2FHL catalog, which has a cut of 50 GeV. We used 360 sources. There are 160 sources off the galactic plane. We avoid the galaxy because the galaxy is a mess. And most of them are blazars. And I'll get back to blazars in a second. And then we use another two catalogs, but the point remains that we wanted to concentrate on gamma ray sources for the reasons I mentioned there. Okay, so I'll tell you about lasers in my last lecture, but I need to tell you something now. So this is the best way I find to tell when I give my public lectures as well. So the universe contains about 2 trillion galaxies. That's the last count. 2 trillion galaxies, 2,000 billion galaxies. About 1% of them have a massive black hole. We believe that all of them, all the big ones, have a black hole. About 1% of them have a black hole which we call active. If you look at the center of this galaxy, you should not see this very bright spot if the galaxy were normal. This galaxy is not normal, it's active, it's the prototype C1, because there is something there which emits a lot of radiation, typically more than the whole galaxy. We call these objects active and antinuclear. So, all the galaxies have a black hole, 1% are active. less than 10% of these active galaxies produce jets. These are particles being accelerated by the black hole at very, very fast speeds, close to the speed of light. When these jets are pointed towards us, then the object is called a blazer. So, to recap, neutrino galaxies, 1% the black hole is active, less than 10% they have a jet, and then a small fraction of these jets will point towards us within a factor of 5-10 degrees, and that's a blazer. If you do the math, less than one galaxy out of 100,000 is a blazer. They're very, very, very rare sources. But they're very powerful, so that's all over the place. They come into flavors, maybe for this audience this is not important. They emit all over the spectrum, from the radio to the gamma ray. This is what they call a spectral energy distribution. This is nu and nu, or E squared dAE for physicists. This shows where most of the energy is coming from. This is BLA, the prototype of the BLA class, which is one of the subclasses of laser. You can see here that when the object is quiescent, which is the solid line, the optical and the gamma ray balance are equal. When the object is in outburst, most of the energy comes out in the gamma rays. This I get back again in the last two lectures. There are strong indications that we are seeing relativistic beaming, which means jets which are moving very fast, close to C, forming a small angle with the other side, and this produces amplification and other nice things which we'll tackle on Friday and Saturday. In a nutshell, lasers are sized for very energy phenomena. They manage to accelerate photons up to 10 TeVs and particles up to 0.9998. That's the Lorentz factor of 50, which is not bad. My favorite definition, they're nature's free accelerator. It's much cheaper to look at the blazer than to build the Large Hadron Collider, which explains why many physicists have moved to laser studies to understand the way these things accelerate power. Okay, the last thing about lasers, they come in two main classes, which this will be important later. If you look at the ACD, we know this is synchrotron emission, and this is the peak of the synchrotron emission. There are two main classes based on this peak. The ones where the peak of the synchrotron emission is less than 10 to 15 Hertz, which is there, are called HPL. This is one of these objects. Why are these important? Because, as you can see here, when the peak is low, the gamma ray flux is low. If you push the ACD to the right, then you will have more gamma rays, and the chance of producing, of being a neutrino emitter, in our view, increases. So these are very important for neutrino astronomy. Again, according to Elisa, myself, and a few others. Okay, close the parenthesis on lasers. We'll learn more about lasers on Friday and Saturday. So, we have these gamma ray catalogs, we have these neutrino catalogs. How do we try to see if neutrinos are coming from lasers? We did a very simple statistical analysis. We have the red dots are the gamma ray catalogs, the black circles are the neutrino with their errors. So what we did, we invented a statistic which is called NU. The number of events with at least one gamma ray counterpart. And then we plot NU as a function of gamma ray flux. And we got some numbers. Then we determine the chance probability by randomizing the positions up to 1,000,000 times. And then we get the p-value. And I'm going to be plotting the p-value as a function of gamma ray flux. So this is the result. So I'll walk you through it because maybe it's not as intuitive the first time you look at it. So this is an integral flux. So this point means all the sources with the flux above this value. This is the p-value. So this shows you a few things. If you look at the whole 2FHL, which is a gamma ray catalog, the red points, there is a minimum here, but it's at the level of about 2%. If you look at the 2FHL non-HPL, remember the HPL are the real lux with a synchrotron peak above 10 to 15 Hertz, they are all the way up there, no signal. The only signal, well, the only hint comes from the AGN, which are the black points, which is a p-value of 0.4%. This number gives you the number of matches we get. This is the number of random matches we expect, so the difference gives you the number of real counterparts. At this minimum, we get about 5.6 counterparts. Now this is pre-trial. Are you all familiar with post-trial correction? I guess I'm talking to physicists. Are you? No? Okay. Wow, I thought the only astronomers would know about this. So, suppose you do 20 statistical tests. Then, by chance, you get the 2 sigma result. 1 divided 20. If you look on Wikipedia, there was a study where they looked for the effect of high voltage cables on people, and they studied 10,000 illnesses. They got a 4 sigma result without correcting for the number of trials they did. Once they did that, there was no signal left. So the message is that whenever you do statistics, you have to correct the number of trials you've been using, and if you do that, you get, in this case, not much, because the point of the depends, you go from 0.4 to 1.4%. Now, every astronomer would jump on that, because we are less rigorous than you guys. Of course, I was working with a physicist, and so we said, well, we find a hint that there might be a signal at this relatively high gamma reflex. It could be that some of the neutrinos are coming from this type of laser. The HPL, the ones with no peak elevator energy. Then we did all we listed all these counterparts, and then we did an important thing. Remember that physics tells us that whenever you have the gamma rays coming from proton-proton collisions, you expect that the energy and the flux of the photons and neutrinos are to be the same within a factor of 2. So what we did, we built the SEVs of all these sources. We put together the gamma ray points. This is one carrying from the mouse, one carrying from the lab. These are the gamma ray points, photovariability doesn't matter. And then we plotted the flux of the putative neutrino counterpart, assuming this was real, and then we looked at the CV. And as you can see here, Elisa calls it the Padovani rule. You draw a line, you extrapolate, and you look if the line intercepts the red point. And in this case, it does. A nice line here. So we say, okay, good. This point not only passes we try to be away from theoretical, any theoretical models. So the point was the following. Whenever you do this match, you find many blazars within these error boxes, but only very few pass this test, which is the energetic test, which is fundamental if you want to have the same, the photons and the neutrinos coming from the same process. As I said, surprisingly enough, very few of these sources pass the test. This is the one which doesn't pass the test. These are the observed photon points. Even if you correct for absorption due to the background photons, you go here, I mean, you extrapolate down there, the neutrinos are all the way up there. There's no way. And this is another case which is nice. Here, this was a quite high ratio, so when you correct the gamma ray points, you go all the way up there, and the gamma ray points to the neutrino. So this is another good one. If you do all this, out of the many 37 sources, you are left with 5. And we call them our most probable matches. Now, there are 5 others which could be, or not, you know, this is sort of hand-waving. But so, the outcome is the following. Out of 51 neutrinos, you can have maybe 5, possibly 10 counterparts. So, even if blazars of this type are responsible for neutrinos, they can only explain 10-20% of the ice cube signal, which was by itself an interesting result. Even if we're right, we can only explain a small part of the ice cube result. So this was the first way we tackled the problem. The second way was a theoretical one. We got together with Maria Tropol, who's a theoretician. This is the SCT again of BLR. Everybody agrees that this part is synchrotron emission. We have electrons moving in magnetic fields, they produce photons. This second part part, most people prefer to think that it's inverse quantum. The same electrons boost the photons they produce to the gamma rays, and they produce, and this is how you explain ACD. But if you are right, and you have protons, then you have to have hadronic emission. So the gamma rays have to come from hadrons. And so Maria, with Apostolo Mastichiadis and Dimitra Koutis, had this code, which was an electrodronic model. She could fit the data of blazars using electrons, gamma rays from electrons, and from protons as well. And this is what we did. So in a nutshell, the code has 5 particle population. You have the protons, which lose energy by a variety of processes. You have the electrons, again, single radiation inverse quantum. Photons, which gain and lose energy in X rays. Neutrons go away, and then neutrinos go away. So this whole thing is described by a set of time-dependent equations solved by the code. It takes a long time to run, but then you get something like this. So these points are the photons of Markarian 41, and the black line is the fit using electrodronic model. So a model where the gamma rays come also from protons. This model predicts this neutrino flux in red, to be compared to this point, which has a larger part, but this is it. That's the way it is. So in this case, as you can see, this is not very far from what we could see, assuming that this event is matched to Markarian 41. This also was done for another source, which was actually nice. Again, this is the prediction, the red dotted line, and this is what was observed. So in the next couple, there are more, 3 or 4 cases, even on the theoretical side, which were the cases for which we thought there was the most probable match. We could actually explain the photons and the neutrinos using this electrodronic model.
How old is this figure?
Sorry?
How old is this figure?
2015. Petropoli?
No, yeah, because I was wondering why there is no high energy clearly in like around 300 GeV or something.
This is fair.
Yeah.
This is 1 GeV, so it's almost 100 GeV. Yeah, we use whatever we could find. So if there are no data there, there are not data. Okay, so point number 2, the theory approach. Then we asked ourselves another question. Now let's assume that all the LUX are neutrino sources. Let's assume we have a way of linking the gamma rays to the neutrinos. Can the LUX explain the whole signal seen by us? This is a totally different approach. In Padovani, we've been working on a simulation which basically the tests are irrelevant. We know how blazars evolve. We put all the blazars in a computer, and we are in total control. We can reproduce all the properties of blazars in the computer. To this simulation, we added an hadronic component based on Maria's model, and this is the component. There was only one free parameter: the relation between the gamma ray and the neutrino flux, and this was determined by comparing the model with the data. So at the end of the day, we have no free parameters. So these are the high-speed data in red, and this is our results. Again, I'm doing something which is very ambitious. I'm taking all the lasers in the universe. I'm assigning to each of them a neutrino flux, and then I'm summing it all up, and then producing this blue curve, which is quite something. As you can see, it's orange, yes, because up to here, you can barely distinguish the 2 curves. So again, it's the LUX with the high energy single spectrum. What's the message? It's very simple. They can do it. They can only explain high-speed data from half a GeV onwards, but here they are off by, again, the usual factor of 10. So even if, again, this confirms what we found with the other approach. Even if some of the neutrinos come from PLux cannot explain the whole signal of ice cube. Now,
just one question. I mean, there on the right side you have then dots which says excluded upper limits, and your model is there above. Or do I read that wrong? All these red dots with arrows down?
This was 1 sigma and this is 3 sigma. We calculated the 3 sigma, yes. So they're not excluded, but I get there. This is a very good question. We need to get to this point. So as you can see, our model predicts a bunch of 2, 3, 4 PVs neutrinos, which IceCube has not seen. So IceCube looked at our model and constrained this parameter which we use to calibrate the gamma rays in the photons. And so their best value now is this one, which lowers the model again. They're robust and large, so you can still say that our model explains everything from half a PV onwards, but the point remains that our curve was probably on the high side. But the point now is another one. This is now the big picture. I'm putting together photons and neutrinos. So this is the gamma ray, the ground, as seen by Fermi. This is our simulation of the LUX with Burghausen in gray. And you can see that above 10 GeV, we've shown, and other people confirm that, the LUX can explain the whole gamma ray background. You see that the gray point, the gray area coincides with the red point. But this plot shows that the LUX cannot explain the IceCube background, which is sort of an inconsistency. It looks like not all the LUX are neutrino factors, which is interesting. Okay, at the end of the first lecture. So, what I told you today, the LUX are great candidates as counterparts of IceCube neutrinos from 3 different points of view. We did a statistical approach, a theoretical one, and then a population-wide study. We found a signal with a value of about 1.4%, which you can explain again only 10% of the IceCube data. We've shown that electronic models can explain the ACD of some BLUX. And this is the work with Maria. And again, the last point, HBM as a class can explain only the high energy part and about 10% of the low energy events. After working for 4 years on this, we knew that if we were right, IceCube had to detect a BLUX sooner or later. So, just to give you a feeling of how we felt. We knew we were right, but we could not prove it. Let's put it this way. So then, last September, the event came, and as I tell you later, tomorrow, it was great to see that the type of source that was identified as a counterpart was exactly the one we've been discussing for the past 4 years. And a point which remains, even if this is true, that Elisa and I and Paolo Giommi and others, we believe that there is plenty of room for other sources. Okay, so BLUX, yes, they are neutrino sources, but they cannot explain the full IceCube system. And these are the 5 papers we published with Elisa in the past 4 years, and I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
We don't have a second working microphone in the moment, so speak up for questions.
I have a question for you first. Was the level okay? Or did you get lost? Please, feel free. Was it okay? This is the easy part.
What kind of lasers are those lasers which Invisibles to explain the low energy parts at IceCube, like around a few hundred CeV? Because there are some papers on that. So
Yes, there are many papers on that.
yeah. So
How do you repeat the question?
Yes. So the question was, what kind of lasers could explain the signal at the low energy part? My answer is that no lasers. We found during our studies, we found no signal from anything else than from HBM. So the other ones, the LDL, gave us no signal at all. There are many further papers which say that there could be other sources, but I don't believe that lasers could be explaining that part there. The reason is the following, that when you do the math, the energy of the neutrinos scales inversely with the energy of the singleton peak. So HPL explains this part, and the LDL go to much higher energy. So here you should have ultra HPL, which if they are there, they are small now. So your point, the non-HPL might be relevant there, as you can see from this graph. The HPL die off here, and you have the other ones. But here, no way. So with the reason we think gravity sources, there are many possibility AGN outflows, and I can chat to you about it, but right now I don't think we know. I'm pretty sure that lasers cannot explain that part of the signal.
Then I've got an additional question.
Sure.
So if it's not laser, do you expect, so you were describing you're naming a few possible sources for those guys. Can they still be like P gamma accelerators? Or can they still be like P gamma accelerators? P gamma interaction